One day heaven extended its irresistible arm and held the cleaver of fate in its fist, and it cut us off. Radio died in the fall of 1953, I suppose, that last season.
To give you an example of how grim it was out in 1959, they removed suspense from the West Coast to New York in order to save $80 in sound effects technicians.
Well, I saw it, sadly enough, just dying, like leaves falling from a tree in the autumn. Program after program were taken off the air.
When radio died, and I mean it died with a big bang, it just died out there in California. They tried to move it back to New York.
And it had to die suddenly and violently because the networks could no longer sustain it, because they intended to go into the new medium, television. If they had tried to hold on to radios, they might have for a season or two.
There was
And
no
other money
drama
interest
at
to
all.
create the television.
So many of the radio personalities
Well, that's the case.
couldn't
Not
make
create
it
radio,
very
but made it.
And until
Other jobs, like corresponding jobs, or my job, there were a lot of
Yeah, didn't that leave you high, huh? Left me feeling treetop tall. That was Louis Armstrong's I Can't Give You Anything But Love. And that's all we have time for on the Hot and Mellow Hour tonight. Yes, this is Smiley Smith, your favorite disc jockey. I hope, booting the Hot and Mellow Hour home for this evening. I'll be back again tomorrow night, minus the music, but with a little surprise for you. Tomorrow night, Friday night, as you know, is stunt night here at station WXP, and have I got a stunt for you. Last week, if you remember, I planted my wire recorder in the steam room at a lady's Turkish bath and let you listen in on the playback, remember? Well, tonight, as soon as I leave the studio, do you know where I'm going? Your friend Smiley is going to spend the night in a haunted house on a spook hunt. You heard me, a spook hunt in a haunted house. I'm bringing my little old wire recorder along with me, and if you tune in tomorrow evening at this time, you'll learn what it's like to spend a night in a haunted house. Ain't that something? Yeah, a real haunted house. No kidding. 4 people are known to have committed suicide there. So tune in tomorrow night and share a real thrill with your old pal Smiley, I must be crazy, Smith. Good night.
This is Elliot Lewis. I believe there's a place for experimental drama in radio. The play you're going to hear is such an experiment. It's debatable whether it's too personal an experience. I don't think it is. Some of you may be offended, some revolted, some excited by the sharing of this experience. At all events, since it is an experiment, and since we'll be dealing with those strange depths in a man's mind called his subconscious, we ask your attention. The play is called
Welcome to Breaking Walls, episode number 84. My name is James Scully. Tonight on Breaking Walls, it's the simple art of macabre, to your ears, from the mouths of some of the best who ever produced radio stuff of nightmares. If this is your first time listening to Breaking Walls, welcome to the show. You can find this show everywhere you get a podcast and at thewallbreakers.com. Our opening theme song tonight is Seance on a Wet Afternoon, originally composed by John Barry and re-recorded by Nick Rain. I'd also like to thank you, the listener. Our audience is now 25 times larger than last year at this time. And if you're tuning in via iTunes, give a quick show rating. It helps more people find Breaking Walls. Yet unannounced, I've got new audio projects in the works. I hope to reveal these over the next couple of months. And by the way, like hard-boiled detective fiction? Give a listen or a re-listen to our 6-part audio drama miniseries, A Man Named Marlowe. Set in 1935 Los Angeles, it stars Raymond Chandler's famous private eye, Philip Marlowe. It's It's available in the same feed as this podcast. You may also support these shows and unlock bonus content and other clips for as little as $1 per month at patreon.com/thewallbreakers. On today's program, you're going to hear many distinct voices. Let's introduce some of these people.
And speaking of these people, right now I'm going to ask the Vice President of SPERDVAC, Larry Gassman, to stand up here and introduce these people.
This is going to be fun. This is going to be interesting. We've been looking at...
Today, Larry Gassman is the president of SPERDVAC, and on August 14, 1982, he was the MC for a panel discussion featuring several well-known West Coast radio character actors. Larry, Brother John, and Walden Hughes had their own show of radio recollections, which you can listen to via YesterdayUSA.com.
I would think that anything can be much more frightening if you can conjure it up yourself in your own mind than someone else would do it for you.
Chuck Shaden interviewed members of the radio community for almost 40 years. He himself is a member of the Radio Hall of Fame, class of 1993. Chuck still runs his own site, speakingofradio.com, where you can stream tons of his interviews for free.
And it is a great pleasure to have Elliot Lewis, who did just about anything you can do in radio. Starred in many suspense broadcasts.
In the 1980s, John Dunning hosted a Golden Age program in Denver on 71K News Talk Radio and wrote On the Air, the Encyclopedia of Old-Time Radio.
And I'm looking forward to today's show because we're playing the types of programs that I enjoy the most. Usually from under the bed, I must admit to that.
Horror shows were the first shows
Dick
to really
Bertel and late Ed Corcoran hosted the Hartford, Connecticut-based Golden Age of Radio program for WTIC in the 1970s. The pair interviewed numerous stars during the show's almost 7-year run. For more information on the program and to download interviews from their archives, please go to goldenage-wtic.org.
I think that radio was probably one of the most exciting medias that ever was. The audience had to do a lot of work. I did a great many suspense and escape and all of those radio theaters, and the audience really had to build the sets, to create the makeup, to figure out what they thought the people were like, what the ambiance of the drama was like. It was terribly exciting, and almost everybody that I've ever known who has made a success in the theater started in radio.
Care for a cigar, Mr. Thorpe? I got some cigars in the dash there.
No.
Well, no reason for you to carry a chip on your shoulder, Mr. Thorpe.
Oh, really? Well, I don't like this fool stunt.
Well, I don't see it as a fool stunt at all. I really don't. I think it's the only way you're going to unload this house. Ordinary selling methods won't work in a case like this. Now, don't forget the reputation saddling this house. 4 suicides since 1939. You know what people call it, the death trap.
Yes. It's a lot of nonsense.
Sure, but try to convince people of that. Anyway, when this disc jockey offered me this chance to kill all the rumors about the about the property, I just naturally jumped and took him up at it, especially since it don't cost a cent.
You sure about that? I'm not liable for a penny.
Not a cent. We're doing him a favor letting him use the place, he said. Thanked me for the chance last night when I drove him out here. So one hand washes the other, as the feller says. He got a chance to pull off a stunt, and the wire recording will prove the people the property's A number one, and we increase the chance of selling the place.
Well, as long as it doesn't cost me anything.
Not a thing. He's using his own recorder, and I'm paying for the rental of a couple of walkie-talkies he hooked up to.
Well, what about this, Reed? Does he charge anything?
He comes gratis, too. Dr. Reed is a psychic investigator. Belongs to a couple of societies that do nothing but hunt ghosts. He showed me articles he's written about it in their magazine. Well, here's the house. Yeah, looks real nice in the sunshine, don't it? Yeah, man, smell that sea breeze.
You don't have to sell me. Well, let them know we're here.
Yeah, probably asleep up all night and everything.
Why don't they come out? Do you think they've gone?
Well, I told them last night I'd pick them up around 11. Smith! Smith! Hey, Smiley! Dr. Reed! Yeah, fast asleep, I guess. We better go in and wake him up.
Of course, they may have taken the bus back to town.
Oh, no. It's a 2-mile hike to the main highway. Smith! Hey, Smiley. Where are you? Wake up.
You don't suppose, do you?
Oh, no. Smith. Dr. Reed.
What's that clicking noise from in there?
Well, it's his wire recorder. He left it running. These machines cost a lot of money. Doesn't he care if he uses up his batteries?
Well, where is he, and where's this Reed?
Maybe they're upstairs. Smith! Hey, anybody home?
They must have walked to the highway and taken the bus.
Well, he wouldn't have left these machines.
Well, where are they then? Where are they?
Oh, now, don't get excited, Mr. Thorpe.
Don't tell me not to get excited. If something's happened to them in my house, I'm liable.
Well, you try this side, I'll try that one.
All right.
Smith. Hey, Smiley. Smith.
Oh. McDonald, come here.
Oh, what? What it? Oh, no. Reed. Dr. Reed. No, don't touch him, Mr. Thorpe. You'll get your hands off. Look.
Blood. Is he dead?
I can still feel his pulse. We better get him to hospital fast.
It's far more frightening if one were to sit in a room and suddenly a chair that one has known all one's life begins to rock or suddenly begins to glide over the floor toward you. That'd be a far greater monster than anything Hitchcock ever showed. Or if you heard a noise outside and you turned and that old familiar bush outside the window, the branches were suddenly like long fingers scraping at the window toward you. I needn't go further.
Why do we like to be scared? What is it about the unconscious and the unexplained that drives human beings to scream, to laugh, to pray? Organized religions, nations, even families, all have origin stories and stories of the hereafter. Have you ever experienced anything otherworldly and illogical? Most of us have. Like the face you didn't quite see in the darkness. You know, the thing that made your hair stand up in the middle of the night. Was it something we just didn't fully understand? Or was it something else? Something not of the living? Could it be both?
Star, wavy lines, square.
7, 3.
CBS Radio and its 217 affiliated stations present the CBS Radio Workshop, radio's distinguished series dedicated to man's imagination, the theater of the mind. Tonight, report on ESP, a study of clairvoyance, telepathy, and extrasensory perception, taken from actual case records. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. John McIntyre.
Extrasensory perception, clairvoyance, telepathy, precognition. These are the laboratory words. But in everyday life, you and I are faced with a multitude of strange occurrences. Item: a man is about to board a certain airliner. Suddenly, on a hunch, he turns back to the ticket window and changes to another flight. An hour later, the plane he would have been on crashes into a mountainside. Item: A mother suddenly and unaccountably breaks into tears at the moment her son is killed 1,000 miles away. Reason? Unknown, unexplained.
Cross, square.
Today, modern scientists are delving deeper and deeper into these mysteries.
Star.
In the science laboratory of a great university, a girl sits at a table and draws cards from an automatic shuffling machine. On the face of each card is one of 5 possible designs. A star, a circle, a cross, a square, 3 wavy lines. Without looking at the cards, the girl tries to identify the designs by mental impressions, by clairvoyance. At another table, a man watches dice tumble about in a revolving cage. The man calls out a number.
6.
The dice are cast. The number is 6. At still another table, an experimenter stares at a photograph of a tree and tries to project the mental image of this tree to an artist at a drawing board in the next room.
People in the United States have been fascinated with seeing the odd and unexplained at circus sideshows, carnivals, and curiosity museums since before the United States was a country. Local folk stories have been passed down and corrupted from generation to generation. The first institution to be called the American Museum was founded in 1791 by John Pintard in New York City. The museum changed hands several times until it settled under the control of John Scudder. He and later his sons ran the museum until 1841, when it was purchased by P.T. Barnum. That same year, Graham's magazine published Edgar Allan Poe's Murders in the Rue Morgue. It is today considered the first modern detective story. Located at the corner of Broadway and Ann Street in New York City, Barnum's museum offered both strange and educational attractions like General Tom Thumb, a 3-foot dwarf, the Fiji Mermaid, an object comprising the torso and head of a juvenile monkey sewn to the back half of a fish, Josephine, the bearded lady, William Henry Johnson, known as Zip the Pinhead, and Chang and Eng, the Siamese twins. For the price of admission, anyone, no matter their class or background, could enter and see the abnormal, the grotesque, and sometimes the completely phony. Barnum's final incarnation of his American Museum burned down in 1868. 2 years later, he got into the circus business. In 1900, the United States population was 72 million, a rise of 21% from 1890. As new wealth and an emerging middle class found themselves with free time, family vacations became a more commonplace affair. By 1904, 3 amusement parks, Steeplechase, Luna, and Dreamland were open at Coney Island in Brooklyn, New York. They featured the weird, the wild, and the absurd with exhibitions and rides like The War of the Worlds, The Trip to the North Pole, Creation, a spectacle portraying the first 6 days in the book of Genesis, and the world's first neonatal incubator. Coney Island was also a site for early radio development. In fact, in 1906, Guglielmo Marconi opened up a wireless telegraphy station with the call letters SE at Seagate on the western end of the Coney Island Peninsula. By the time radio stations were signing on the air with great regularity in the 1920s, Coney Island was becoming a radio hub. Famed radio announcer Andre Baruch, later a founder of the Armed Forces Radio Network, got his first job there.
My first appearance in radio, strangely enough, was down in Coney Island. And I was walking along the boardwalk with a friend of mine. We came to the Half Moon Hotel, and on the boardwalk itself was a storefront. And it had the call letters WCGU. And at this point, a man came out and said, frantically, "Can anybody here do anything?" And he pointed to me, my friend, and said, "He can play piano." And the man practically grabbed me by the back of the neck, threw me into this room, sat me down at the piano, and the room was entirely walled in by these velvet drapes. He then walked to this big carbon microphone, turned on a switch, and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, we now present that distinguished concert pianist, Paul Hart." And I turned around to see who that was, you know. And then he flipped a switch and he said, "What are you going to play?" And I said, "Dizzy Fingers." He said, "No, you have to play something classical." Mr. Hart opens his concert this afternoon with...
As the American economy boomed in the 1920s, the country became more literate. By that decade, dime store novels had given way to the pulp magazine. Pulps like Weird Tales displayed the fantastic and the horrific. Their covers featured depictions like the Ooze, Horned Devils, Fiendish Dwarfs, and Wolf Women. Coupled with their interior stories from authors like Carl Jacobi and H.P. Lovecraft, had tantalized the reading public with tales of lurking monstrosities. By the early 1930s, as radio programming became more scripted, the Collier Hour serialized stories of Fu Manchu, and Street and Smith's detective story Magazine Hour debuted with an ominous host. In 1931, Universal Studios inaugurated its series of monster movies with Dracula and Frankenstein. Horror was in the air, and then it was on the air too. Late that spring, radio's first significant horror program aired on WOR in New York.
The Witch's Tale.
Written by Alonzo Dean Cole, who later wrote Crime Photographer and The Shadow, The Witch's Tale was born from the tradition of campfire stories. The witch was old Nancy of Salem. In this episode, The Trough of Death, originally broadcast on May 29, 1933, a man betrays his lover, only to be doomed to spend all of eternity chained in a cemetery. The sound effects were rudimentary. For example, thunder could be achieved by shaking a metal sheet. Producer and director William N. Robeson remembered sound effects in those early radio days.
At the beginning, in 1933, when I started with Conquerors in the Sky, in order to get a machine gun effect, we had what was called a shot pad, and it was a leather pillow and a slat. The sound effects man would hit this very fast. That was a machine gun burst. I wanted the whine of a shell approaching its target. They didn't have any such effect, and here again, you extemporize. And I said to Gino Severi, the first chairman in the orchestra, "Can't you give me a glissando on the G string?" And that's what he did, and he went down like that. We want the diving of an airplane, the trombone took it. It was that rudimentary in California in 33. Now,
the audience believed it, though, didn't they? Even though it was...
Yes, I don't think one would today, but
at that time
they had no basis of comparison. Later, by the time we got around to, well, within 2 or 3 years, we were using recorded sound effects. We could use recorded sound effects. Automobiles starting, stopping, car door, very rudimentary, bad, but again, no basis for comparison. Then we learned to use variable turntables, so you could speed up or slow down and get a differentiation that way.
The Witch's Tale gained popularity once WOR joined the upstart Mutual Broadcasting System in 1934. The program was nationally syndicated.
One of my shows, the very first Lights Out, almost took me off there. We got 50,000 letters. Mostly, there were no letters.
50,000 letters for one show?
Because I touched a raw nerve of many, many listeners. I learned the responsibility that the artist has in any medium.
In 1934, as Chicago was cresting as the center for radio production, NBC writer and director Willis Cooper created a program for NBC's Chicago affiliate, WENR, that drastically altered the tone of radio horror. Cooper had been writing advertising copy in the late 1920s when he entered radio, writing scripts for NBC's Empire Builders. His idea was to offer listeners a late-night macabre program at a time when other stations were mostly airing music. It emphasized crime thrillers and the supernatural. The first series of shows, each 15 minutes long, ran on Wednesdays at midnight to local audiences. It was called Lights Out.
Lights out, everybody.
This is a tale they tell of another Christmas. A Christmas 19 years ago. The Great War was over.
The show was gruesome. It created a revolution in radio sound effects and storytelling techniques. There were garrotings, chokings. Fingers were broken by snapping carrots. Heads were severed by slicing cabbage. Bacon was sizzled to give the sound of someone being electrocuted. People fell from great heights and splattered wetly on pavement. Warm spaghetti being turned simulated the sound of human flesh being eaten. Often episodes employed a stream of consciousness narrative that would be widely imitated by later programs. Audiences were both horrified and riveted. By April, the series proved so successful, it expanded to a half hour. The following year, it went national. Cooper stayed on until 1936, when he left to write film scripts in Los Angeles. But Lights Out didn't go off the air. Instead, it got a new creative director, Arch Obler.
Personally, I never was a good company man. The way I got on the air was I took my last few dollars in New York and got a cast together and rented a 16-inch disc-making machine and put together a broadcast and brought it into Louis Titterton, the very erudite literary head of the network. I could go on with that one. At any rate, he listened to it. I brought the playback machine, put it on the table. He listened to it, said not a word, picked up the record, disappeared. He went up to see General Sarno. Within an hour, he came back, and he said to me, "You're going on the air from 8:30 to 9 on the full network. Congratulations."
In 1933, Obler was struggling to make a name for himself while simultaneously trying to figure out a new way to realize the potential of radio as a medium. That year, he sold his first script, called Futuristics, to NBC for national broadcast. He followed that with scripts for Don Amici's Grand Hotel and Rudy Valley. In May of 1936, when NBC gave Obler creative control of Lights Out, he saw the opportunity to formulate the program as true theater of the mind.
The first play that I did, again, almost took me off the air. You know, even now, particularly among executives, they don't understand the impact of radio over motion pictures and over television. I've had a touch of both, and I know. Because in radio, and it's so old I hesitate to say it, but you give of yourself. You're part of the communication right now as your listeners are turning their pink ears to this. They're working at it because in their mind's eye, they're seeing me, they're seeing you. When I talk of the merchandise mart, they see the merchandise mart. It isn't on a flat screen. In television, you don't give of yourself except at peaks of high drama, sporting events, actualities. But in plays, they touch you emotionally, but I challenge the listener to remember the play that moved him a week ago. It's almost impossible. It's
on television.
On television.
Play, yes.
But in radio, I've had listeners remind me of plays that they heard 40 years ago. I've had that experience again and again. Someone said to me, "You know, when I was 10 years old, I heard a play of yours and I've never forgotten it." And I said, "What, Black Beauty? King Arthur's Round Table that you read as a child?" "No," he said. And he told me a story that I wrote that I completely forgotten. And it was done that long ago. And it stayed there in his neurons, so to speak, because he gave of himself when he listened to that.
He soon became one of radio's most famous auteurs. Between 1936 and 38, he penned over 100 Lights Out episodes. Many were high psychological art. One story entitled State Executioner suggests the horrors of capital punishment and the dangers of greed by having a state executioner execute a man he knows is innocent because he wants the payment. But the executioner's horror multiplies when he finds out the man was his own son. Hollywood stars such as Boris Karloff were so enthralled with Obler that they clamored to be on Lights Out.
He was a charming man, such a gentleman. When one thinks of all the horrible things he was in, the leering monsters and that Frankenstein thing.
Well, he did an outstanding job for you, I think, on a Lights Out program, on a story called Cat Wife.
I married a cat.
Yes. The man whose wife, because of suggestion and because she has all the latent terrors in her of a witch cat, thinks she's a cat. Now he tries to hide from the world.
A cat. You hear me? A cat.
Stop staring at me like that. Stop staring at me. John, what's happening to me? John, my head can hardly see. John, help me. John.
Linda.
What are you staring at? What are you staring at? What are you... Meow!
Linda! Linda!
I always have one marvelous picture of Karloff in Chicago. We finished the broadcast and he disappeared, and I knew how shy he was. And I suddenly realized that he had left his cabin, was going down Michigan Avenue. And I went after him, and I had to run to get to him. And I said, Boris, what is it? And he said, look, pointing over his shoulder. Well, I expect to see Dracula and a few others and the vice presidents of the network after him. It was about 3 little children running after him with autograph books. He was terrified.
It seems that even those known for inspiring terror in others can be terrorized by the simplest things.